Hello everyone, welcome to Jupiter in the 5th house of your chart with all aspects. If you have Jupiter 5 signs away from your ascendant sign, this is a video for you. Also Western system, but make sure you have equal house system or sign for a house. If you're new to my channel, sub below. Let's begin. So what is the 5th house in your chart? The 5th house is the house lorded by the sun in the natural zodiac. It's the house of life itself. It's the house of the birth of children, creativity, spontaneity in your life. It's where you have art forms, drama, entertainment, all the fun and laughter of life. It's also house of education, and indeed it's also the house of love affairs. It's about freedom from anxiety, freedom from illness as well, because it's the 12th house from the 6th house. It frees you from disease. So who is Jupiter? Jupiter is Guru, guide. He is a pure sattvic being who gives us the highest knowledge and wisdom, which frees us from this material entanglement. On a mundane level, he represents education, children, marriage in a female chart, and elder brother. So what's going to happen when Jupiter, such a high-minded entity, is in the 5th house of the chart? First of all, we must understand a very important factor. Jupiter is karaka for the 5th house, and karaka in own house does not always produce beneficence for those significations as you might think. But there is one element that Jupiter will expand beyond all others, and that is your innate intelligence and wisdom. This is a house of past life good karma. Jupiter is good karma, so you have the most incredible intelligence that is available and seen by your parents from a very early age. You're the clever one in your family. It's not always mundane intelligence, but you have such wisdom beyond your years. You're like an old soul in a young body. It's very noticeable indeed. In fact, this innate wisdom, which everybody with Jupiter 5th house has, sets you apart from your fellow beings. You are searching almost from the moment of your birth for the meaning of life. You cannot live on a superficial level. You must find philosophical truth. You're searching for God on one level. You're searching to reacquire knowledge, wisdom, which you had in previous life. In fact, this love of learning is a very basis of your being, and you normally love school. You just enjoy being in an educational environment. I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. But here's the most important thing. Jupiter in the 5th house gives you the ability to educate others at a very high level. Jupiter 5th is a teacher at heart. You're born a teacher. You may train to become a teacher by profession, but you don't need to learn the skill. It's innate. You become a natural educator. No matter what your profession, you prefer to have some aspect of your job where you are instructing others, educating others, guiding others, even counseling others. You are expert in this field, most definitely. And you have a joie de vivre about you, a youthfulness, because in some ways, Jupiter 5th is still having that childlike spontaneity even later in life. You never truly grow up. You're always wanting to have fun. This is not a negative thing. It's a very attractive and beautiful aspect of your personality. In fact, Jupiter 5th house gives a superb sense of humor and a great ability to make others laugh. It's again one of the factors that attracts people to you most definitely. And what happens to your own education though? Jupiter as karaka gives delays or breaks in your education. You can actually start higher education and then leave it. That is very often seen. Or you go back to it. I've seen one person with this 5th house Jupiter took 20 years after leaving her degree until she went back, and then she got the highest degrees possible, right to the top. So that can be seen. Jupiter in the 5th also gives delay in having children. I've seen people have first child very late in life, like 40s, have no children at all or just one child. Generally speaking, Jupiter gives a smaller family than you might expect with this position. Of course, other planets in the 5th can change this, as well as the position of the Lord of the 5th, the D5 and the D7 will definitely give you final indications here. The fifth house also represents creative art, so you will definitely have an intense love of drama, literature, the arts, music, poetry, all of these things. They inspire you tremendously and you may desire to excel in them. But again, Jupiter Karaka gives delays. So you may start a skill in these areas and then stop it, or start again and then stop. There's many ups and downs often seen here. Another area which Jupiter here gives stops and starts is in love affairs. Jupiter in the fifth can definitely expand you into many different romances in your life, but they are often sometimes short-lived. Jupiter does not always equate them into long-term relationships. So much else, though, that you have to see in your chart. Finally, Jupiter in the fifth house, particularly with affliction, can give a love of risk-taking behavior, speculation and so on, which could be favorable if there are good aspects, but with affliction could be damaging to you. A real love of social life as well can be excessive and take you away from the more productive areas of your life. Now let's consider the aspects of Jupiter, which are actually the most munificent parts of this placement. Jupiter's fifth aspect on the ninth house of higher education, philosophy, foreign travel, father, guru is so favorable for you. You see, despite the breaks in your education, you always get there in the end to the highest levels. Often foreign lands promote you as well, and foreign travel gives you great wisdom and instruction. One of the things is, though, that you are here to gain guru. This is a house of guru and teacher. You gain favor from your own teachers in your education, and you actually find a true spiritual guide, many of you in this life. Obviously, if there is affliction to this ninth house lord or this ninth house, there can be some delays, but in the end, guru comes to you. And actually mantra, because Jupiter fifth house rules mantra meditation, so some system of worship or mantra which was yours past life is most definitely coming to you again in this life. Father is most helpful to you. Now, again, you have to see afflictions to the ninth house and ninth house lord. But whatever affliction is there, in the end, you gain favor from your father, help from your father and your father's family also. Now, Jupiter's seventh aspect is quite an excessive aspect. So, Jupiter tends to delay, as I say, education and even skill base here, but ultimately he will give you high earnings. He will take you to the top in any profession in regard to income. But Jupiter expands your friendship circle continually. So there is always new friends, but leaving behind old friends often seen here. Jupiter here also gets you into politics sometimes, but it's not always that fortunate for you because it just expands you beyond your deep philosophical base, which is your true heart and soul. Finally, Jupiter's ninth aspect on the first house. This is a very beneficent factor. Jupiter is guiding you through your inner knowledge, philosophy and wisdom in every moment of your life. It is who you are. You are able to come through the worst circumstances because of this inner belief system. More than that, Jupiter acts like a guardian angel to you. So no matter what afflictions to your ascendants there are, you actually gain help at the last moment through Jupiter. This is coming from your past good karmas. So when things are at their worst, Jupiter brings you out, particularly illness. Jupiter can get you out of any illness, but it may take time according to other karmas, but Jupiter brings you out of it in the end. He is in the 12th house to your 6th house of disease, so he always gives you help in this regard. So Jupiter is your great friend in this incarnation by his placement in your 5th house for sure. He's a miracle worker for you. Very often that can be seen. Up on your screen now, Jupiter karmas in all signs. Check that out to complement the 5th house placement. If you're new to my channel, sub below. Coming up soon, new videos on Vedic and all astrology. Goodbye for now and God bless you all.